Hello and welcome. It's Sunday afternoon, time for a lazy Sunday chat. And this is the Czech Pilsner that I kegged last week. So, a week in the keg. Haze still slight, obviously. It's only a week in, conditioning. But I'm showing you how things condition. Slowly, steadily over the time. So yes, it had been mentioned to me that your beer's cloudy. You're saying it's cloudy because you've only just fucking kegged it. Obvious. Yes, I know. But I'm showing you how it develops over time. So you don't have to do these things. You know? So that's Nova Lager yeast Pilsner 1 week after kegged and sat at 4 degrees at 15 psi. 30 psi rocked for 3 minutes to get it initially carved. Don't know if you can see the carb. It's steady and gentle enough, reasonable. It's not fizzing, but it's pretty good. Which gives you enough carb for a Pilsner that's at 4.9 degrees. Good lacing. Sits there nicely. Comes back. That head will sit there all day now. It's very good. So that's a good Nova Lager Pilsner, Czech Pilsner. Everything as it would be in the Bible, so to speak, except Nova Lager yeast. I also brewed on Thursday, and that's the result. I said I was doing this on Wednesday. This is the Helles. I had mentioned that I might change the mash, and I did. So, here's the book, initial book for the recipe. Previous version is exactly the same, which is sat on the shelf behind me anyway. It's just this is the one that I have marked the page with. So, the Munich Helles. Slightly grainy, malty flavour from the blend of lightly toasted malts is balanced by the subtle bitterness and aroma of the spicy Mittelfrüh hops. Now, I haven't got Mittelfrüh hops. Getting the grain approval. Slightly, that wasn't the best, was it? I had Tettnang. I had Northern Brew as well. It was a German hop, but Tettnang was as close as I had to a Mittelfrüh, so I used that. Grain bill, Pilsner malt. I had Simpson's Best Pilsen malt, so I used that. 4.38 kilos. Pardon me. There you go. Excuse me. Carapils malt, 200 grams. I used Weyermann's Carapils and 175 grams of Vienna malt. That might be Best Malt or Weyermann's. I'm not sure. It's one of the two. Then as it says, the hops, you want 14.9 IBUs with at the start of boil, which is a 75-minute boil. So at the start of boil, you want enough hops to get 14.9 IBUs. And for the last 5 minutes of boil, 2.2 IBUs. Now, obviously, I use Tettnang, so if you use Mittelfrüh, whatever. And we'll see what about that. And estimated ABV in the book is 4.99. That's because they expect gravity initially is 1.049, and using the Copenhagen Lager yeast, which I didn't, the FG is supposed to be 1.012. Now the now I got 1.046 using the Grainfather app for this recipe, and using Nova Lager yeast. 2 packets I put as in the recipe, because I don't know how many packets. Once I'd brewed what I did with the last one, there's probably about 4 packets in there, to be honest, because I dropped it on the yeast cake of the last beer, which was the Czech Pilsner. So I am thinking it's maybe 4 packets, but I put it as 2 just to be reckless. So that was saying that I should get 1.046 as initial, but we should go down to 1.006. That's going to end up quite dry. Bit of a problem that, because this is supposed to be a grainy malty flavour. Is it going to be sweet? 1.012 is reasonably. It's not going to be dry. It's going to be dry because it's a lager yeast, but it's going to be slightly sweetish. Hellers that I've had, and I've only had a few, have been reasonably. I wouldn't say sweet, but yeah, grainy. I go with what they say there. It's pretty much. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that. Now, they have just a plain 1 hour mash at 65, then 10 minutes mash out at 75 is what I always do anyway, because it automatically puts it in for Grainfather. I just let it do it anyway because I can't be asked to fanny about. However, this book is the book I bought last weekend that I got for 99p from Oxfam. And their mash schedule is very different. Now, they're brewing in a bag, and that's one thing. And this is 1978 when this was produced, so that's another thing. And I'm not sure the malts that they were using then are as well modified as they are now. I mean, 1978, come on. That's over 40, that's what, 45 years ago. 45 years. Christ. That's just sinking in with me, really. 45 years ago that was written. Jesus. Highway to Hell will have still been on the fucking radio. And Radio 1 when this was out. Probably. I think. Yeah. So their mass schedule was add the malts at 45 degrees, raise it straight to 55 for half an hour and leave it there for half an hour, and then raise it to whatever temperature you are looking for. In my case, obviously, it was 65, and then obviously I did the mash out because I can't bother. It seems to do its thing, and it's always done its thing, and I'm always happy with the results with that. So I did that. That's what I did. Now, I've read up since, obviously, that was because of unmodified malts. There's certain reasons you add up 45, then up to 55. I mean, I could go into it. It's in the John Palmer book, but I'd probably put you to sleep and myself to sleep while I read through it, because it's all that complicated, really dull stuff. All about breaking down certain. I'm falling asleep just thinking about it. That's right. So I'll stop. Basically, it is just that's what you did with the modified malts or slightly modified malts to help the brewing. We don't really need to do that at all, but I did it anyway, just to see what would happen. So, when it came down to it, the original gravity was exactly what it said it would be before I'd put that in. I did the recipe first, as I would from this book. I put that into the app, the Grainfather app, and the expected original gravity is 1.046. Then I altered it and put the mash schedule for this in, keeping the malts and everything as they were, and it didn't really change. Kept it 1.046. However, the results was slightly different in that, yes, I got the same OG as it was expected, 1.046. However, the resulting wort was slightly hazy. Not like you couldn't see through it. Maybe a little hazier than that, slightly. No, maybe about that haze. Now, doing something like a Pilsner, a bitter, or whatever, anything that does not have a hop addition at Whirlpool, hop stand, whatever you want to call it, I don't get a haze in the wort. The wort is beautifully clear. It's constantly recirculating, obviously. It's during the boil. It's not during the boil, is it? I don't do that. When I forget that bit. The mash, that's where the recirculating is. But then when I did do the boil and that, and then I take the wort out, it is usually absolutely spankingly clear, beautifully clear. Just the colour changes depending on the brew. However, this was hazy. And then once I'd transferred the wort completely into the fermenter after the boil, this is why I'm getting myself all twisted up, because I'm thinking about the mash and then I'm thinking about the boil at the same time. After the boil and everything, and you finish the beer, and I transferred to the fermenter, the bottom of the Grainfather had a ring, a black ring, where it's burnt, caramelized, however you want to put it. I don't ever normally get those rings, ever. I've only ever had that when I've done a really big sort of stout, like an almost an impy stout, when I've been chucking, or an over sugared old ale, and it's been a long boil. Never otherwise. It's just has a little bit of a coloured a deposit, so to speak, but you just wipe it and it comes off. However, this was a burnt on. Now, the wort itself didn't taste any different. However, it may add to the beer in the way you'd expect a decoction mash. A bit of caramelisation. That caramelisation, that burning, adds a caramelised taste to it. And it may, because obviously being a hairless, pilsners or whatever, are so subtle that it may be enough to just give it that sense of a decoction without using the melanoid and such. I don't know. I haven't tasted the final beer because it's not getting ready, so I don't know. As the wort tasted, I couldn't tell. I certainly couldn't taste it to be burnt. It didn't taste, when you burnt food and you can taste it immediately. It's like, it's burnt. You burnt it. Forget it. It's burnt. There was none of that. I had burnt beer before, like I say, with the pale stouts, and you could kind of taste it on the wort, but this is like years and years ago. I haven't burnt the shit out of anything for a long time. However, I did back in the early days, a few, and you could taste it very, very slightly, but because they then bunked shitloads of stuff on top of it, as you do with an imperial stout, no fucking noticed. Except I always knew it was there in the background. Kept quiet about it, as you do. So yeah, should be fine. I'm hoping. So that was what happened with the change. And whilst I was doing the beer, I stripped my taps out and took them apart completely, cleaned them, and it was a bloody good job I did, because all of the washers had just crumbled, all completely deteriorated, so they all needed replacing. Needed a good scrub inside as well. I've got the annoying tap. I need to change my taps, I'll be honest. I want some these taps are brilliant in the fact they were given to me free by Mr. Robbie Williams. He's still on BoobTube. I think he went pro. He certainly was doing. He did a few things with. He had like a horse box which he converted into a brewing, a bar, and he was going around hiring it out and doing events with it. I'm not sure if he is still, because doesn't really post much these days. However, he did come down, because when he worked for Insert, he used to work for Insert, and he brought me one day some taps and a lot of stuff because I'd said my taps, I'd bought cheap Chinese taps and they were starting to drop to bits and leak. So he brought me a lot of taps, and I've been using those taps and they're brilliant. I have no problems with them. However, pardon me, again, it's quite gassy. They're tap forward, so the ball's at the back and the beer comes out the tap, and then it does sit in the tap and then fall out. So you do have to keep an eye on them for that, because they do need constant cleaning. More so than the taps where it's like So these are ball back, ball forward, where the beer is pushed forward and then you open it and it's right that very little bit of tap. I need some of those. Plus these taps, you hit them accidentally and they open and they stay open. I used to have the ones where you have to push them, literally push them to open for the beer, and then they sprung back and closed, and I like that. I need that because I am clumsy at times, leaning over things, trying to get things out from behind, across, and because it's such a small shed, I'm constantly knocking things, and so it will knock a tap and it will open and beer will pour out, and I will close it, and then I will cry over the spilled beer. I won't cry over spilled milk, but the beer, yeah, fucking right I will. So I did that, cleaned them out, did the lines again, and so this is as pure as driven snow almost, as far as beer goes. It's lovely. I think that's pretty much everything I had to say. News-wise, everyone's been to Retford. Well, not everyone. There has been a meet at Retford this weekend. Quite a few brew tubers have been there. So I've seen a few pictures so far. I'm hoping for some videos, so keep an eye out for them. I look forward to seeing them, because hopefully they didn't make an ass of themselves quite as much as I did, or Rusty did. Unless they're better than did, I think, with that pair of us. Anyway, I do look forward to seeing those. Also, it's 10 years since Craft Beer Channel started. Now, I don't know how long ago I started watching them. I started watching them on Jamie's Food Tube, Jamie Oliver's Food Tube. Yes, I do watch Jamie Oliver. He's like, for cooking, he's like weed, you know? He's an introduction into the hardcore stuff. So, that's what I'll call him. So, he's like the cooking, he's the he's the weed of chefs. Just like an introduction drug into the hardcore stuff. Anyway, so they were used to be on FoodTube doing like pairings between beers and food, and they do the odd recipe using their beers that they'd come up with and such, and how the beers were nice, and then develop their channel. So I followed them since then, and they're amazing. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Craft Beer Channel. Why wouldn't you be? If you're into craft beer, into making your own beer, you should be into the Craft Beer Channel, because they're all about beer and beer and beer. So anyway, that's it. That's about all I have news-wise. So I think we'll call that quits. And got this far. Thanks for watching. I'm going to finish the rest of this very, very quickly, because this is bloody nice, and I've been talking too long. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.